Can you hear me well? Okay, great. So, hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at DevFest in Prague, and it's very nice to meet you all. So, let me introduce myself one more time in more details. My name is Kateřina Ščavnická, or Katie, up to you. And I work as an engineering lead in Kiwi.com of our core data team for almost 5 years now. And I am here to share our experience, when working with data in Kiwi. But I'm also here to share my personal experience as a witness and survivee when we were navigating the challenge that all of us from data are facing now. And the challenge is how to navigate the data governance in this AI hype, AI era. But first things first, who are we? Who is Kiwi.com? Kiwi.com is a travel tech company creating itineraries by combining flights from different carriers, airlines, into one single itinerary, even though those carriers, do not collaborate with each other. And that algorithm is called virtual interlining. So when I will be talking about data in Kiwi.com, I will be talking about data like bookings, flights, data about carriers, baggages, check-ins, etc. But what is very important is, in Kiwi, that every click, every search, every decision, everything is based, on the data. And, it's very challenging how to translate this data into something that serves our customers well. Because ever since I joined Kiwi, customers, travelers, were always the priority number one, for us. So to translate the data into something that would provide travelers with value is sometimes very challenging for us. But to provide them the number or the value, you need to understand those customers first. But I am not talking about, basic understanding of patterns of funnels. I am talking mostly about understanding customers to the deeper level, and I would say even beyond the human perception. And for that, we believed we can use the AI. Well, but we quickly realized that it was just a dream, and naive idea. Because when we started, to analyzing what we have about our customers, we found out that we have one single table where all the customer interactions data we have, which is pretty nice originally, right? You think that problem solved. But when you look closer, you realize that we had almost more than 137 billion rows. And the storage was pretty huge, right? The volume of the data is 900 terabytes. Can you imagine what does it mean to store 900 terabytes in one table? It was, it was huge for us because we are using BigQuery as our primary database, analytical database. So according to the official billing of BigQuery, BigQuery bills $20 per terabyte, just for storing of the data. So when we do the math, we will end up pretty easily with $18,000 per month just for storing one single table about customer interactions. And can you imagine what you can afford for that money for 1 month? Like in Czech Republic, in average, you can afford 3 or 4 full-time engineers per month. But we were quite positive about that situation because we thought that, oh, that's nice, more data means more answers, and we will just, plug in the AI and let the magic happen. But that was just was a dream, that was just a naive idea. Because to extract data or answers to very simple business questions about our customers, how many customers did we have, what is the conversion rate, like very basic questions, we needed to create more than 250 custom queries, running on a daily basis. that were, of course, visualized in more than 100 dashboards because every information was important to our PMs. And last but not least, we ended up with a team of 11 data analysts just keeping alive those pipelines and those dashboards. I'm not talking about, providing insights and generating, some like data value. I'm talking about keeping alive the bare minimum. But still, we were quite positive, and we thought, OK, let's use the AI, and we will see. So when we have extracted, very small portion of the data, I mean, few hours of the customer interaction data, and upload it to the ChatGPT and ask very simple business question, we ended up with this answer. And as you can see, he basically wasn't able to do the analysis. He used completely wrong customer event or customer action because there was absolute lack of documentation and lack of context of the AI. So AI was just picking up, random events. And last but not least, we reached data analysis limit even with few hours of the data. So we quickly realized that this is not the way, and AI will serve us only under one condition, when we will have governed and well-documented customer behavior data. So we said enough. We need to sit down. We need to do something about it because this is completely unsustainable situation. We have 11 analysts, exhausted and pissed, and at the same time we have zero value of the data. So we started, slowly onboarding the data governance principles, which was very tough and hard at the first sight, for the company to accept that we are not using AI and moving, forward. We need to take a step back, start, moving on the core, and then go with the era, with the hype. And this is something we were working on, and we had few lessons learned, the hard way, of course. And this is something that I would like to talk about now. So first rule number 1, please do not never use data without any owner. I know it sounds obvious, but when you are pushed, to use the AI to generate some insights, you are trying to use basically anything to provide any value. And this is something that we needed to solve first. So we needed to onboard the data mesh principles to our company, to our data warehouse, data lake. And this is how it looks like now. At the very beginning, we have domain systems and services that produce data. How many bookings did we have? What disruptions did we have? How many checkings did we have? And those data that were logged in the domain systems and services were then, or are then, published to this rectangle, which is BigQuery. And so-called domain data sets are created. The thing, or the principle of the data mesh is that those domain teams responsible for the domain systems are also responsible for the domain data sets. It means that they are basically responsible for the data quality publishing directly to the BigQuery. The next step is not mandatory, but it's very strongly recommended by me, which is creation of the so-called data model. What is it? Data model, it's, let's say, aggregated data product, combining multiple domain data sets into one table, into one single source of truth. And thanks to that source of truth, you are able to provide your key stakeholders to any business questions related to that domain they have. And this is something that serves as the core, source of truth from the data in KiwiCom. And on top of that, we have many output ports. For example, data scientists are using, those tables to train their ML models. Analysts are using that to just do any custom analysis. They are not using the raw data. They are using the aggregated, clean, deduplicated data. And last but not least, every report, every exploration, every A/B test, everything is based on top of the data as well. So as you can see, the data flows like everywhere, in the KiwiCom. So when we were using data without owner, we ended up not just with skewed analysis and results, but sometimes also with wrong business decisions. The second rule was that not all the data should be considered as a data product. What is it when I am talking about data product? So as a data product, you can consider a data that meets following conditions. The first one is ownership, as I mentioned like in the previous slide. The second one, I know, again, sounds obvious, but the data needs to always have documentation. Even though the data analysts from our company thought that they completely understand the data and they don't need basically any documentation, multiple times we have realized with something, or misinterpreting results in the wrong way. And again, it had a huge impact on the whole company. Third part is quality. And right now, I'm not talking about the core quality, like, completeness of the data, that the data is available, freshness, etc. I'm also talking about quality from the business perspective. It means that the data data makes sense from the business as well. In our context should be, for example, data quality checking if we have positive sales or not. Because if we would have, negative sales, it means that we are paying to our customers for booking flights, with us. Fourth part is architecture. Tables, needs to be interconnectable. There needs to be unique IDs. There are no duplicities, and the data makes sense and the structure per se as well. Another part is the data contract, which was a huge deal for us, so I will talk about it more in a bit. And last but not least is the security. Long story short, that the data won't put into the danger your company, and the data serves to you, and you are not saving the company before the data. And third part, less is more. I will be honest, this is something that I didn't like at all, because I thought that more data means more answers originally, and I believe that if we would go this way, we will lose a lot of information. But I must admit that they were right, because let's get honest, you are not able to fix all the data you have in the company, never. You need to focus on something that matters the most for the company. And that's why we ended up with categorization of our data products, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. And this categorization basically means that the Tier 1 is the most important data products. Without that, wouldn't the company survive? For example, what was the revenue yesterday? How many bookings did we have, and other things. On the other hand, when we are checking or looking at the Tier 3, it's still important for the company, but it's not important, for the company to survive. For example, some internal, logs for debugging application. It's very important for the flow of the company, but without the data, the company would survive. And for the Tier 1, the most important data for us, we have decided to onboard something called data contracts, and those data contracts were, a huge deal breaker for us and game changer as well. Because ever since I've joined Kiwi, we were always struggling, who is responsible for what. Because in Kiwi, we have many, domains with a lot of data, a huge amount of data, many teams. And it was a chaos, So this contract is literally data contract, Google Doc or YAML file. And this contract basically contains the agreement between two sides, data producers and data consumers, and those basically agrees about the process and responsibility if something goes wrong. What is the SLA, who should be contacted, where it should be communicated, etc., etc. And this helped us a lot, to step back, and look at the incident in a more objective way without blaming each other, because everybody knew what to do. And now, stop. I'm here, as I mentioned, not just, tell you the experience when we were working with the data. I am also here to share my personal perspective on this topic and this challenge. And I must admit, it wasn't an easy task at all. At some point, it took years to get to the point, to this very point where we are right now. And it was a very frustrating journey because something like this won't happen overnight. Because to onboard the data mesh, and ask teams to take the ownership and responsibility and consequences, you need to first change the mindset around the data across the whole company. It won't just happen over the night that you will, sign some contract and that's it. So for us, it was one step forward and two steps back, yeah. And it took us years, to get there. So before going the journey, be ready that it's going to be painful, but definitely worth it, because the difference it made, it's like day and night for us now. Remember that fancy table, the huge one? This table contained more than 3,000 distinct, unique customer actions. It means that, 3,000 distinct or unique clicks on what button, we had 3,000 things how to analyze the flow of the customers, which was a huge amount and it wasn't necessary at all. So right now, we built a new solution completely from scratch. And now we have circa 200 events, and I would say it's even too much. I believe that 100 would be sufficient for the core of the company. Also, when we were building from scratch the new solution, we realized that we were missing almost 15% of the data, so we have improved the data completeness by 15%. But last but not least, and the very important thing is that thanks to all those data governance rules, and the mindset and the process and contracts, we were finally able to build one single source of truth on top of that huge, messy table. And thanks to that, customers or our stakeholders are able, to understand the data without 11 analysts keeping alive some dashboards, because they can self-serve their needs. And when we were talking about this unsustainable solution, now it's a huge difference. Right now we have less than 20 queries, less than 20 dashboards, and we have only 3 data analysts working with customer interactions data. Don't worry, the rest of the analysts are still in the company. They are just in a different department. And remember, the AI, the idea to plug in the AI and let the magic happen, now is the time. Now was the time to start even thinking about how to use the AI. But thanks to AI and the strong governance, we were able to build something called semantic validation. It means that we have AI agent, in CI/CD pipeline, checking basically if there are any data with the same semantic, but with different naming, And thanks to that, we are able to keep our data consistent and naming consistent as well. Second thing, anomaly detection, that's topic per se. We can talk about it hours and hours. And last but not least is the data interpretation. Because thanks to the AI, our data stakeholders could finally more understand the data and interpret them thanks to AI. And they can also talk to our data. And when I'm talking about talking to our data, I mean literally talking to our data. Because we have built an AI agent in Slack that is directly accessible via Slack. And you can ask him any data question you have. It needs to be, of course, on top of the governed data. But when I ask the very same question that I've asked ChatGPT via our AI agent, I got it within like few seconds, this answer, with correct numbers. and which was a huge, deal breaker or game changer for us, because thanks to that you can literally ask a question via Slack, and Slackbot is capable of answering you. But let's get real, it's AI, so it's working, but it has its flaws and gaps. So even though we are polishing it, and we have the whole team focusing on that, you are not prepared for questions like, who are you? Steven, which is the name of the bot. What is the best summer vacation destination, and recommend it to me, please? What is the cheapest, flight when I want to go to Taiwan? And last but not least, what is the busiest creation airport, but answer in emojis? So there is always space for improvement, but I believe we are getting there. But the most important thing, to sum it up, more data doesn't mean more answers, it's just more chaos, and it causes more confusion, not just confusion of your stakeholders, but also you can confuse the AI. But I believe that the data governance would be the way out of the chaos, because for us, it was literally a lifesaver. And since it saved us a lot of, nights and days and like pain, we are huge fans, of the data governance in Kiwi. So if you are interested or if you want to talk, let us know. We will be happy to chat. And thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Katie. We have first question. Have you managed to filter the old data to merge with new data for historical statistics?
No. We built completely new solution, and we had basically announced that from this date, the data could be trusted, and from this day back in the history, the data is not trustable at all, but we will provide you with the numbers. So there was a huge red flag, and a huge red sign, but still we have provided them. But those data are not connected at all.
Before the next question starts rolling, what are your best tips for kind of incentivizing people to take ownership of this whole process? Because it sounds like, you even said 2 steps back, 1 step forward, and it probably comes from the bottom of the company, from a manager of those 9 angry analysts, to the awareness of the CEO. Okay, we should do the governance differently, and then back to the managers and to other leaders. So everybody has to take ownership in that process, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
What worked and what didn't?
I'll be honest, sometimes we just let it burn, to demonstrate that something like that is not sustainable at all. But other than that, what helped us a lot is to demonstrate that without the data, we won't be able to work efficiently. For example, specific example from the practice, I have calculated what impact it had on every A/B test we had for the last 3 years. And when they saw the difference between the new solution and the old solution, they basically got scared and understood that they need to do something about it.
Yeah, so you have to start somewhere and then...
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
How do you clean such an amount of data?
We have validation, every event has schema, and every time, the producers are publishing data to BigQuery, it needs to basically match the predefined schema. Otherwise, it just falls down to some dead letter Q table, and the data are not part of the analysis or any public dashboard.
Okay, 2 Steven questions. Why Steven? Was it the name of some badass analyst?
No. It was after the Stephen Hawking. We had the same expectations from him.
Got it. Can you briefly explain the AI technology behind him? Behind
sorry?
Steven, up.
AI technology behind the Stephen? Yeah, it's built on top of Claude Code, and it's just agentic AI. So we just ask Stephen, to check the database, follow some rules, and if something like that does not exist, build your own building block, piece of code in Golang, and you will remember it, like the Steven will remember it. So it's just like self-developing AI agent, remembering things.
I think this one also elaborates on the previous question. How did you build trust in the agents? I can imagine that through the re-architecture process, where is it second? There were some incorrect metrics surfaced due to the complexity.
Yes. We are measuring correctness, number of correct answers that Steven could provide us with. Still, there are some, drops in the correctness, definitely. We are still building the trust. We are not at all there that everybody just trusts Steven blindly, but I believe that once we, keep the correctness, for example, around 95%, they will start to trust us with Steven as well.
Thank you. How do you address the tension between the security, need-to-know basis, and massive analysis of all data into unique insights?
I'm not sure that I understand that question.
Okay, where is the... Yes.
Okay.
A bit.
Hi, Milo.
Let's elaborate.
Hello. So I'm a security guy, and I'm dealing on a daily basis with sensitive data. And sensitive data are important for analysts as well. But you don't really want to cross-reference all of the sensitive data into anything and everything. And yet, the more data you include in your analysis, the more potential there is for better and unique insights. So there's this tension of the security guys not wanting to publish all of the data to one space, and the tension between the analysts where they do want every data in every place so they can do whatever.
Yeah, we are definitely trying to basically tell Steven not to provide any sensitive information or any information that would break, trust or GDPR or anything like this. It's hard-coded in his prompts. And even when you would ask him, for example, for how many, or if Milo had, some cursor activity or something like that, he would just reply that I can't provide you with such data because it's sensitive information, yada, yada, yada. So it's not definitely bulletproof, but we are keeping that in the core prompt.
Right. Thank you.
And then we have, how do you deal with domain ownership that cross multiple teams? Does the team come first or the domain? A customer's table, for example, crosses multiple domains.
In terms of customer data, it's across almost 9 teams, and we were the one pushing them and understand that this is the way how it needs to be. Otherwise, we will end up with the previous solution. So usually, domain teams are the reactive. On the other hand, the analysts and the data team and the team who is building Steven is the proactive. So they are reaching out to the teams. But to be honest, they are always very open to everything and every discussion. So every time we just ask them to, help us with that or take the ownership of that, they already understand that basically they need to.
Data contracts. What do you use for data contracts? Is it datacontracts.com specification?
No, we are using data contracts in the form of Google documents, and it's always attached in the YAML file, to the specific data set in BigQuery. And it's just the document, where there are outlined the responsibilities, the SLAs, and other parameters, that needs to be part of the process. Basically, what's the drill if something goes wrong? But we have, internal Confluence guidelines, what needs to be included in the data contract. So it has one format.
I will take another Steven question down the back. Why didn't you start using Agent Space, Gemini Enterprise nowadays, and decided to go with Steven?
We have tried the agent space originally, but it didn't work for us at all. We needed, since the analytics in Kiwi.com is, I would say, advanced and very custom, and we have many custom solutions built in-house. Agent space was not a solution for us at all because it wasn't customizable at that level we needed, for analysts to be able to use that on that level they needed.
Got it. And some high-level also question, do you see LLMs ever being able to store the context of such huge data sets and actually being able to analyze them correctly?
Yeah, actually this is something we are currently struggling with, because as we have onboarded more than 60% of the data we have in the company, Steven started to hallucinate a lot, and he just started to throwing random numbers at you when he thought that it's correct. We have decided to start with the sub-agents, approach. So we need to, or right now we are revamping Steven into sub-agents, so it means one domain will be one sub-agent dedicated to that specific domain. So yeah, we thought that it will be able to store such a huge context, but it's not, for us at least.
Can you share some funny replies from Steven?
Yeah, many of them. No. Actually, there was a thread, when we were asking Steven about some gossips about Astronomer CEO, because we have connected him to the Perplexity connector, So there was just half of the company asking Steven about some news and gossips and tell me what you think and what is it about and what happened to his wife and other things, which was like, people were pretty engaged, I would say.
I see. Okay, thank you, Katie, so much for coming to DevFest and making it a great event.
Thank you.
For you, don't forget to rate the session. Katie again.